Okay.
All right, so now after we turn on our ventilator, first thing that happens, of course, we have all these different messages that pop up on the screen.
That may get in your way.
We have to calibrate our flow sensor. And so in order to calibrate the flow sensor, we press the Cal Config button. So we do that, and then we press the VCal button. So that we can see the instructions on the screen, we press the confirm. That clears everything out. And so now it's telling us that we need to calibrate our flow sensor. In order to do that, we occlude both ends of the sensor. We press the start button. And now it tells us that our flow sensor is calibrated. So something very easy, very simple, straight to the point. Now, the thing to notice that when you calibrate the flow sensor is that the message pops up that the tube is either obstructed, or you may see an apnea alarm or message on the screen. That's because this sensor recognizes that there's no flow coming through the sensor. So we'll put this off to the side for now, and we'll focus on setting the actual ventilator. Well, in order to do that, we have to figure out exactly what mode of ventilation we want to be in. So we press vent mode. And so once we press that button, we have CPAP, CMV, SIMV, AC, and then PSV. For demonstration purposes and also for your checkoff, we'll focus primarily on the CMV or the AC aspect of this ventilator. So right now we're in AC mode. And if you want to see what your settings are going to be for this ventilator, we have to go back to the main screen by pressing the big arrow here. And we have to press the list button. So we press that. Let's clear that off. And we have all these values that are on here. Everything from your eye time to your frequency to your pressures, maybe PEEP or sensitivity. All of those values are displayed on this particular machine. If you're adjusting the FiO2, we'll work in order here from left to right. So our FiO2 knob is here. You'll notice as we make adjustments here, it also changes on the screen. So right now it's telling me I'm at 28% versus 57% now. I will put our patient on about 30% oxygen. Here we go. All right, we'll look at our flow. A normal flow rate for a neonatal ventilator is roughly about 8 liters per minute. You do not receive an order for that. That's just something from a clinical aspect that you're just supposed to know. So in order to get your flow to that 8 liters, you just turn the knob. You'll notice as I make that adjustment, my inspiratory liter flow increases. All right, so we're at 8 liters per minute. All right, next, I'm going to bypass these two knobs and go directly to my pressure. Well, my pressure, I want to set that, let's just say, hypothetically, at 20 centimeters of water pressure. So I increase my pressure. Notice as I increase my pressure, it changes. My PINSP increases as well. All right, so we're on 20. Next, we have our pressure of PEEP. All right, so for PEEP, we'll turn that down to, let's just say, 2 centimeters of water pressure. So we make the adjustment and it changes on the screen. Oh, it locks us out, so we're only at 2.4 for that. All right, so now the only thing that we haven't adjusted was our rate, because for the Draeger, you do not have a rate knob. You have an inspiratory time and an expiratory time. And so very similar to what we were talking about with the transport vents, if you are trying to set your rate, it's okay for you to go ahead and set one of those values as constant, either your I time or your E time. So by default, you know that you have to make the adjustment in your rate by using the other knob. So a normal I time for our babies, range-wise, it varies. It can go from as low as 0.3 seconds all the way to as high as 0.45 seconds. You do not receive an order to set I time. That's just another one of those clinical things that you just understand. All right, so for this particular situation, we'll adjust our I time. Right now we're at 0.35. We'll put it at 0.4 seconds. So notice as I increase my I time, my TIN, which is my inspiratory time, well, that also increased. You'll also notice as I make adjustments here, and I'm going back down on it, what happens to my respiratory rate? Well, that adjusts as I go down on my rise time, or my inspiratory time, excuse me. My rate goes up. But then you also notice that the IDE ratio also changes. So let me increase my I time so you can see that. So as I increase my I time, well, IDE ratio actually goes down. All right, so we're going to keep it right here at 0.4 seconds. All right, so now with the current settings of my I time, my respiratory rate is 39 beats per minute. Excuse me, 39 breaths per minute. But I want a higher respiratory rate. How do I do that? What should I do? Well, I make the adjustment here. Am I going up or down on my E time?
Down.
All right, so if I go down on my E time, notice what happens to the rate. It increases. So let's say I want a respiratory rate of 60. Well, I just keep decreasing and decreasing and decreasing until I get that rate of 60 that I'm looking for. All right. So now at this standpoint, from the setting side of things, it's done. Everything is complete. All right. Now the only other thing that we have to do is we have to set our alarms. So to go back to the main screen, we press our arrow key here. And in order to set your alarms, you have to press this double arrow key that's right here. You'll notice that we have a high minute ventilation alarm, a low minute ventilation alarm, and then we have a high respiratory rate alarm. Those are the only 3 alarm settings that we have here. The ones that are primary that you set would be your high and low minute ventilation alarms. With the tachypnea alarm, babies are very dynamic. Their respiratory rates constantly go up and down. And so this would actually become more of a nuisance alarm if you were to actually set it and have to make adjustments often. All right, so we're going to make an adjustment to our minute ventilation alarm. But notice we have a 0-minute ventilation. Why is that?
Patient's not hooked up.
All right, so the patient's not hooked up. Let's get our test line. All right, well now patient is connected. Okay? We still do not have a minute ventilation. Why not? Here's your hint. Flow sensor. All right, so we take our flow sensor. Once we put that in line and connect our patient, well now all of a sudden we're going to have a minute ventilation. All right, so there's a minute ventilation. It's displayed. So if you're hoping to see some actual values, you have to, number one, calibrate your flow sensor, but then also make sure that you connect it to your patient. All right, so right now, minute ventilation, I measured minute ventilation is 0.40 liters per minute. Now, our rule is that we work in 2s and 4s for our babies. And so in that particular case, our minute ventilation, which is being measured right now at we'll just say 0.40. 0.2 above 0.40 is what? So 0.2 plus 0.4. 0.6. All right. So in order to make that adjustment, we have this double arrow key that's here, and that helps us to cycle both sides of the machine there. All right. So we'll make that adjustment to our high minute ventilation. 0.6. We press the plus key. All right, so we have that set. Alarm delay defaults at 20 seconds. Apnea defaults at 20 seconds. There again, there's our respiratory rate alarm. 125 should be sufficient for that. But let's go back and put in our low minute ventilation alarm. So 0.4 minus 0.2 is 0.2. Okay, so our alarms are set now. You can confirm it and press the arrow key and everything is fine. All right, so we've gone through the settings, we've calibrated, we've set our alarms. Now part of the checkoff that you'll have to do is of course just chart what you see. The way that we do that is we press the list button, and keep in mind we're back out at the main screen. If we were putting in settings, we go to measure. Oops, I'm sorry. We go to list here, and then we would go to set. From this particular standpoint, we go to measure to see those values. So we press measure 1. From this screen, that's where our PIP, our mean, our peak, our FiO2, our rate, minute ventilation, tidal volume, and if there were any leaks, that's where we could see that information there. All right. So when you chart, that's the screen that you have to be on. So to go over that again, let's go back out to the main screen. Press list. If you're doing the settings, you're in set 1. If you're doing the charting, you do measure 1. All right. So those are the settings, the monitor values for the Draeger ventilator. All right, any questions about that? Questions, comments, concerns? No? Straightforward? Okay. Yeah, it does involve a lot of hands-on. But once you put your hands on it, I promise you it's not going to be that difficult. It'll come right to you. All right, so let's turn that one off.